To debate the president's priorities in his budget plan, Daniel Geltrude is an accountant and business expert, and Doc Thompson is the host of a radio show called The Morning Blaze. Doc, will give you the privilege, since you're in the remote location. There are cuts to foreign aid, transportation, science, programs that help the poor. You agree with all of that?
Absolutely. And we're $20 trillion in debt. I don't know what it's going to take to make people realize we got to cut.
But, I mean, these cuts are going to have a cost. I mean, it's not like just, okay, the government saves money, but this is going to hurt a lot of people, right?
Right, absolutely. But you also have to take waste into consideration. Now, I disagree with the president's increases in Pentagon spending, but that's just because it's bloated as well. Just 2 years ago, an internal report at the Pentagon said that there was $125 billion they could save in the next 5 years if they just were more efficient. Well, guess what? That covers what the president wants at the Pentagon and some of those other spending issues as well.
All right. Why don't you respond to that, Daniel? What do you think?
Well, my position in this is that there's just an assumption that if there's spending outside of the military, it's automatically wasteful. And that's just not true. So I think when you look at what Donald Trump is proposing here, this is part of vintage Donald Trump. It's the art of the deal. Let's put it out there that we're going to keep our campaign promises and really uptick on the military spending, and we're going to cut back on everything else. He's never going to get that. He's never going to get it through Congress.
Well, Daniel, to your point, art of the deal is the president being smart, starting low, coming in with a very low budget on the other fronts, knowing that Congress will push up those numbers. Just good negotiating?
Yeah, I think it is. I think that's why Donald Trump got elected. People really believe that he has that business mentality. He can negotiate the right deal. He keeps his campaign promises. Ultimately, if he doesn't get what he wants, he says, I'm the president. I can't get it past Congress. What could I do? But I'll negotiate a deal we all can live with.
Doc, how about it?
It's the 20 trillion. Answer the 20 trillion, Daniel. How do we get out of $20 trillion?
I think the answer to that is it's not so easy to get out of $20 trillion of debt. We're never going to get out of that. So we have to look at this on a current basis and start with, if it's going to be America first, that doesn't mean exclusive spending on the military. America first means American citizens. That also is going to include social programs that we need to help poor people.
Wait a minute. So we should go to investors, bondholders, people who want to do business in America and say that 20 trillion? Yeah, that's never going away. Are you insane? You can't write off $20 trillion. It's time to start cutting, get government more efficient.
The interest rates are, look, interest rates are still exceedingly low. We've been carrying a multi-trillion-dollar budget for a long time, and the rest of the world doesn't seem that concerned by it.
If you look at our ratings, they are not as strong as they once were. Why
but they're
is
stronger than the rest of the world. Why are so many people from around the world investing in the United States then?
Because you've got countries that are really, really bad, which we are going to join and be one of them if we're not fiscally responsible. I don't know why fiscal responsibility is such a problem. Simply balance the budget and come up with a line item that will pay down the deficit. And by the way, we can see the economy boom again if we simply lower business taxes and get out of people's way.
Dan, what about the argument we should be living within our means?
Well, absolutely. All of us as individuals have to do that. We don't have the ability to just keep borrowing and borrowing with an endless sum of money. So we all have to be fiscally responsible, and that includes the government. And I don't disagree that we have a spending problem. We clearly have a spending problem. We're collecting trillions of dollars in tax revenues, but we're spending too much. This is all about where we should spend our dollars.
And should that be on foreign aid? Because that is one of the areas that the president wants to cut drastically, a 28% cut from the State Department. And I think about $8 billion goes to foreign aid. Has that yielded results?
It's really hard to say what kind of results that you're getting from that because we don't know what's going on behind the scenes with negotiations between the White House and foreign leaders. I mean, I assume we go back to the art of the deal. Some of those deals are happening related to foreign aid.
Doc, we do know that about $1.4 billion has been given to North Korea over the past 2 decades, and that hasn't yielded too much. Do you think, though, that could apply to other countries? Could cutting foreign aid be detrimental?
Not if you're talking North Korea. They're not going to be our friend anytime soon. It has nothing to do with the aid. I'm tired of buying friends as well. I mean, foreign aid is a problem if you're giving it to countries like North Korea. It still wouldn't be my priority to cut because we've got plenty of other ways we could cut. First of all, you can cut the entire Department of Education because that's not the federal government's job. They take a handling charge to simply redistribute the money, leave it in the states to begin with, and there's a bigger bang for the buck. So there's other places they can cut far before they even get to that.
But what about the argument, Dan, and Doc, that there should be some basic level of expectation, whether it's education or agriculture or the environment? We can't just let local communities decide for themselves. Oh, you know what? We don't need to have standards. We don't need to.
Why can't we?
Well,
because communities decide for themselves.
Because then we have a race to the bottom. Because then we have a race to the bottom.
That's not a race to the bottom. Communities control communities. Local control is always better. What you're talking about is redistributing. You're saying that part of the country that's far away has more money. We want to take some of it. That's not right.
Well, that's not exactly what I'm saying. But Dan, you take it away.
Well, look, I think this is a debate that's going to continue. We're talking about whether the states should be having the right to figure out how to spend this money, yet the states all turn around and they want federal aid. They want help from the federal government. So it comes down to this. We want your money. We don't want your 2 cents.
Well, that's because the federal government has taken all of their money forever and set up the structure where they have to have their hat out and hand out. Come on, give us our money back.
Actually,
Get out of the way.
Actually, for every dollar that California sends to the federal government, they only get 80 cents back. And California is one of the most regulated states in the country. So your logic doesn't really make a lot of sense. But nonetheless, Doc Thompson and Daniel Geltrude, we appreciate you both coming in. A lively debate, and we appreciate it.
All right, coming up, a new UN report.